Good morning, Ray. I think there was a touch of fall in the air this morning. It's interesting here, we're barely out here at the beginning of the trail, and there's a monarch monitoring and there are quite a few of them out here, by the way, kind of some hiding out in the tall grasses. And the sunflower beggar ticks, sunflower tick seed, it goes by several names, but the sunflower epithet I think is very appropriate because it's a very large flowered one. We have another beggar tick out here, Spanish needles, and that's also very descriptive, but it doesn't have the color. Maybe we'll see it. I think this is a good place to start. It just shows how the prairie has beauty in every season, interest in every season. We can also see very nicely right here, over in here, where 2 years ago, when this was all put in, this got pretty badly torn up, of course. This was a construction easement. And it'll probably take several years before this all fills in. But you can see the stark difference between where there was prairie, and of course it's prairie now, and this in here that will be very slow to fill in because of soil compaction, all the various factors. But an area like this has interest of all of its own because here you have the interaction of our Eurasian weeds. This is of course foxtail here, but also our native weed. And of course this native weed is not particularly well liked. Not here in Illinois, not anywhere in the US, and wouldn't you know it, they don't like it in Europe either. It's what we gave them for them giving us foxtail and all the dandelions. This is ragweed. And of course the Chinese and the Germans and the French are no more pleased with having to sneeze their heads off when ragweed season comes around. So anyway, it's just a little fun observation. And of course we got plenty here because it's a disturbance plant. And this disturbance plant, it has its place. And we might actually ask, well, why do we have that? Well, when the bison came through here by the thousands and thousands, and they trampled the prairie and created a lot of open areas, something always comes in. And annuals, this being an annuals, this would have been a bison follower. So I find that kind of interesting. But then there are others that are less obvious, and one of those is this plant right there, and that has also stickery seeds. If you see that right there, and if you can see it right there, and here's the leaf to go along with Agremonia. I have to think about the common name, whatever it is. Most people wouldn't know the common name any more than the botanical name. So in many cases, I say, rather than trying to learn a dozen common names, because next county over they might call it somebody else, somebody that's knowledgeable. So, well, just stick with the Agrimony is the common name. My mind takes time to click in sometimes. But it has a tiny little yellow flower which is gone up, but then it has these burrs. As you can see, it will stick. So even weed flora has its interesting elements, and I like to call attention here to a weed, not very showy. It's this one right here. It's also a disturbance follower, and I don't think it was actually even native here. When this was first settled, it came in on wagon train, on ruts, on railroads, because railroads were built, very early on. So this is one of the Gauras. Gaura, and this one is actually called Parvaflora, and Parvaflora means small flowered, And by golly, look at the flowers there. They are kind of small, aren't they? And I think we'll probably see the Gaura biennis, which is a common one. It has a much larger flowers, but this is the uncommon one. And so it followed the pioneers, you might say, right? Over here, when you see all the sunflowers, and a lot of them when you come up the highway on the trash piles on Route 66 here. And that's another disturbing species, and people know it very well. It's a sunflower. Yeah, it's still nectaring there. Maybe you can get closer and get a better photo of it. I'll let you do that because you're the... Yeah, he's going to ignore us. He's got more important things to do. I think even here as we walk through there, you know, we scare up all kinds of little insects. So this is a wonderful pollinator haven here, a habitat. And let's see, what did I... Oh, that's just... Whenever you're ready, we'll walk out. And I saw a big pod of Sullivan's milkweed. And of course, that's the milkweeds that... yeah, here it is. This one right here is worth looking at, and this is Solomon's milkweed. It's smooth, and I think I've called attention to it before because I like it. It has this wonderful red stripe down the rib. You know, this is the main rib, and so it's very distinctive. We have the common milkweed out here too in great abundance, and that it has a larger leaf, it's duller, and then the pod has lots and lots of spines on it, the soft spines. I think the one thing that's particularly noteworthy, even on this little 10-acre prairie remnant restoration, is just how much diversity there's out here. And one could easily say, let me step over here, so then you have the sunflowers in the background. One could easily say that in nature, there are so many combinations between the soil, the moisture, obviously, and then many variable conditions, then the plants and the insects. So nature is definitely infinitely varied. Of course, later on, the seeds on this sunflower, which are not nearly as large as the one in our gardens, but it's related. As I mentioned, this is the western sunflower, Petiolaris. That's wonderful food for migrating birds, any birds. The goldfinches will be in here before you know it, and will take great advantage of it. But other plants like this vervain out here is also going to be a prolific seed producer, and there'll be other smaller birds who'll feed on that. A lot of birds feed on ragweed seed. It's very nutritious. So